Okay, so I think we can get started.
Sure.
So, hello everyone. My name is Farhan Yunus. I am the General Secretary of Open Silicon Valley. I'm very fortunate. I have two visionaries with me today, Atif Khan and Amir Khan, popularly known as the Khan brothers. They started Viptela while transitioning from their corporate career into the entrepreneurial world. So we'll go into that detail a little bit later. Today's session is brought to you by Open Silicon Valley and the National Incubation Center in Islamabad. A few housekeeping items before we can get started. Please keep your lines on mute. Type your questions in the Q&A window, and we'll answer them as we go along. Today we are going to talk about Amir and Atif's entrepreneur journey. As you know, they are the founders. Their current venture is known as Alkera, which is a multi-cloud networking startup. It emerged from stealth mode last month with what many in Silicon Valley would say it emerged with a bang, announcing fundings from some of the Silicon Valley giants like Sequoia Capital, Client Perkins, and Google Ventures. Prior to Alkera, they founded Viptela, which was acquired by Cisco for a little more than $600 million. Today, we will talk to them on a whole host of topics, starting from the very early days of playing squash to their most recent venture, Alkera. I hope their journey will inspire you to get out of your comfort zone and pursue your dream. So welcome, Atif, and welcome, Amir.
Thanks, Farhan.
Thanks for having us.
So I want to walk our audience towards the very beginning of this journey. You came to the U.S. to pursue your higher education. Of course, you were both passionate about sports, especially squash. Can you walk us through those early days? What made you pick squash? It's a very rigorous game. And I also see that both of you went to University of Colorado. So how that decision came about? And did you always wanted to be an entrepreneur, or that's something that interest you developed at a later time in your career?
Okay, thanks, Farhan. First of all, let me say that I hope, we all hope that everybody is doing well through these difficult times. And it's not easy, and I hope everybody's family and friends, everyone is doing well. Thanks for asking these questions. Both Atif and I, we grew up in Model Town, Lahore, and our dad was a pilot in the Air Force. He was an athlete. He was the captain of Pakistan basketball team in the 50s. And so we were always inspired to play something, and we played a lot of sports and ended up playing squash because our elder brother, Shahid Khan, he used to play squash at the Services Club, and he introduced us to squash. And I didn't play as much. I started after high school, but Atif started very early. He was very young when he started, and he has played and was coached by Gogi Alauddin at the Punjab Squash Rackets. So that's, Atif, if you want to say a few words about your squash journey.
Yeah, I saw my elder brothers playing squash when I was very little. Actually, the other brother, Shahid, he put me into squash when I was 8 or 9 years old. And then I started playing very seriously. So I played seriously till the age of 16 in Pakistan. Played first for Lahore and then for Punjab juniors, and traveled all across the country playing interprovincial and those types of tournaments before I came here for my undergrad. I came here very early. I was 16 when I moved here. I did my O-levels a bit early, and then I moved here and started my undergrad in University of Colorado Boulder.
Yep. And I played for the FC College, even though I had only played a year or so before that. So very proud that, they selected me in that team. And my education, we went to Divisional Public School, DPS in Model Town. And then from there, I went to FC College and then did my FSC and BSc from there. BSc was in statistics and mathematics. Then I went to NCA, National College of Arts, for a year. I was still struggling to figure out what I need to do with my career. And then my dad asked me that, he was a pilot. So he said, elder brothers have become pilots. Why don't you go do something else? Go to the US and study. So I got admission at the University of Mississippi in electrical engineering and studied that, then went to Colorado. So Atif and I were together at the University of Colorado. And then we began our careers here, and we're very fortunate that we joined the internet boom very early when Cisco was very, very small. When I joined, it was only about 300 people. And we built our career building products for the networking industry in companies like Cisco and Juniper and many startups like Procket. So after that, we started Viptela when I was 48, 49 years old. It was late in our life because we always got very good opportunities in large companies, and then eventually decided that we need to do something innovative outside of the large companies. So we decided to start Viptela. And at Viptela, it was myself, Atif, Khalid Raza, and Ramesh Prabhakaran. We were the early four who started together. And it turned out that our vision was pretty good in the networking industry, and Cisco needed a solution like that, and they came and acquired us. So very proud to say that they're still using that solution. It's one of the leading solutions in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for that background. Growing up in Pakistan, we used to play a whole host of sports, cricket, especially if you grow up in an Air Force environment, cricket, hockey, squash was always the favorite, tennis. And I know squash is very rigorous. Did that sport play a role in any way in disciplining your approach towards entrepreneurship, towards your early career, your education? And how did it prepare you for bigger things to come later in life? And I know, Atif, you have some amazing accomplishments in squash, and I'm sure Amir, I'm not exactly sure when you both played who played a better game. I would assume, Atif, you did.
Hey, watch it.
So can you tell us a little bit about how that sport might have shaped up your discipline towards education and entrepreneurship?
Sports are always very helpful in shaping your personality. If you play sports at a decent level, you compete, you learn a lot from it, especially how you cope with pressure. I remember, like, even till I was playing competitively till 5-6 years ago, you would be playing matches where there would be so much pressure on you and stuff. So you cope with it. You learn how to deal with pressure. And that translates into helping you a lot in your life also, not just in education, but also in your career once you finish your education. I don't know, I have a personality where even my friends and my family, they tell me I don't take pressure. I don't, crack under pressure. So I credit this to squash, growing up playing competitively, learning a lot from. I think that played a big part in shaping my personality. So I always encourage people to put their kids into sports, because sports, there are a lot of benefits of putting your kids into sports in early ages. So I think it plays a big role in your how your personality shapes up over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I didn't play at the same level that Atif did, but we were always involved in sports. And sports, as Atif said, shapes you in many ways. You learn to lose, and you are very competitive, right? You always want to win, and so you lose, and then you know how to come back, right? So you're always striving to be better, and people should. Not push the kids, but introduce their kids to sports, and that's always very helpful through their career.
Yeah.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit about your corporate career. You started like many of us who dream about after graduation, they want to start their corporate career and look for jobs in various sectors and various companies, depending on their own passion. You work for some really good companies, successful companies like Cisco, Juniper, Atif, Alcatel. Um, can you walk us through that? While working for corporations, many have some great ideas, but they never act, or they're too afraid to leave their corporate jobs to pursue their dreams. Can you talk a little bit about your first venture? How did it take shape? How did you test the idea in the market? And when did you decide to leave your corporate life and pursue that?
Yeah. So, and as I said, I mean, we joined Cisco and the networking industry very early, right? When nobody knew what networking was or what the internet was, right? And internet took shape after that. There was no connectivity at that time. If you remember, we used to talk with our families on phone, and and email was restricted to maybe a few universities, and the networks were restricted to the boundaries of the corporations. And then we grew from there, and the internet became connectivity of everything across the globe. And then you started to see the web companies, the application companies come up, and now everybody talks about the internet. So we learned a lot, those early days in working with the customers and working in the industry. And there are so many mentors that I can mention who taught us, and from there on, as we were working at Juniper, both Atif and I, and Khalid Raza came to me and he said that, hey, let's, I have some ideas in the wide area networking space. So, and I was always the risk taker, right? So I said, let's go talk about it. So we started talking about it, and we thought that it was good to just, pursue that. And then Atif and Ramesh, they came in, and we all started working on the idea together, and it turned out to be a very strong solution, primarily because of the knowledge that we had gained over so many years, and the early diligence that we did with the customers, and meeting with the customers, and getting their feedback, making sure that we were solving the right problems for the customers, and then pursuing that. A lot of startups, they keep switching their direction over time. But if you do your homework, you don't have to switch direction. You come up with an idea, you do your proper diligence, you learn about the solution that you're going to provide, and get feedback early from the customers. And that's how the ideas flourish. Atif, your take on that?
Yeah, so when we started, as you were saying, somebody has to take a risk, or somebody has to be that person who gets out of his or her comfort zone. So in this case, it was Amir. When all of us started working on this Viptala idea back in, I think it was around December 2011, when we started working out of his home. We would meet every weekend in the morning, early in the morning at 7 a.m. And we would start like brainstorming, working on the idea. He was the only person who left his job. One person who says that I'm gonna do it, and no matter what, it's gonna happen. The three of us, we were still working. We still had our corporate careers. but if it wasn't for one person, or in this case him, who didn't take that chance, and who didn't lead us like that, it wouldn't have had happened. So you always need like a person who is willing to take a chance, take a huge risk, because if I look back, we all started this entrepreneurial stuff a bit late in our lives. If I were to do it again, or live my life again, I would want to do it a bit early in my career. But then again, we were among those fortunate people who had good corporate careers. We were living a very comfortable life. It was very hard for us to go and just give up our corporate lives and start something on our own. So he happened to be that person, and that's how Viptela happened. So you always need a person. You need to get out of your comfort zone. Otherwise, it's very hard.
So for most of us in the corporate world who have a good idea and are looking to test that idea and take that next step, what advice would you have for them? What are the things that they should be looking at? What kind of teams they should be forming? And what kind of vision should they be orchestrating for that to succeed?
It's a very important question. I think learning is the key. You have to educate yourself in whatever you're going to pursue. So in this particular case at Alkira, we didn't have much background in cloud, and we were trying to come up with the next big idea that we wanted to pursue. So in 2018, we started on that journey and started learning. In addition to, of course, we have great background in networking. We had to learn the cloud and how networking applies to the cloud, and what is it that the cloud companies are not doing where we could come and add value. And then you have to take it to the customers and make sure that you take it to other visionaries or people who are working in that industry to review your idea, make sure that you're on the right track, and then you continue to evolve that idea. So it takes a lot of hard work. Identification of the problem is also extremely important to make sure that you have the vision to go after a particular industry and a problem. And then from there, it's all hard work. You have to keep at it, and you have to execute. And as far as the team is concerned, you have to make sure that you are self-aware. It's very important what strengths you are bringing to the table, what your co-founders bring to the table. They need to be complementary skills, right? In this case, I will come up with a crazy idea, and Atif is the one who figures out the details of how to solve that problem, right? And so we work together very well, and we have great chemistry. So chemistry is very important in the founders, and then who you select, who's going to execute on that idea, and who will continue to pursue that vision, who buys into that vision. You have to identify those people in the industry and bring them together on that journey. And some of the people will reach out to you because of your background, history, your experience in working with them, etc. So that's how the teams come together. It is extremely important to have a team which is capable of execution, right, and delivery of your vision. And so in this case, Atif is the main person who works on the technology pieces, all the details with the rest of the team. And, we've been very fortunate to be surrounded by top-notch talent in the industry.
Yeah, and, when you're building something, you have to make sure that you're solving some real pain points, which are out there. So in many cases, what happens is that companies, they go and start building something. They think it's a very cool idea, and they start executing on it. And then they go and try to convince people that, oh, these are the issues you're having, and this is what you should be using to solve those issues. Many times that doesn't work because you think something is required out there, but but it's not something which is easily like sellable or easy to convince people that this is what you need. So our approach has always been different. Our approach has been to work with the real customers before we start building something. Understand the pain points, understand the use cases, because they say that you have to spend more time on understanding the problem, because once you understand the problem, it's, in my opinion, it's much easier to come up with a solution. So spend more time on the problem, understand the problem, and then start working on the solution. So you have many bright people out there who can solve a problem once you give them what exactly the problem is. So it's I always say to everybody that first you have to spend time on the problem. Don't come with the solution. Always come with a problem, and then work on the solution. And also, like, you have to think out of the box. What I see a lot, and I've seen a lot ever since we started working, especially at Viptela, people they look at like other companies. They say, oh, this company is doing it this way, or that company is doing it that way, so why don't we do it this way, or we have to do it this way also. So that doesn't work. When you're trying to disrupt a market, you have to think out of the box. You have to change the game on the existing solutions out there, or existing vendors out there, or what's out there in the market. So I think that's very important to think out of the box, take a step back, think of the problem, spend more time on the problem, and then start solving the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's very interesting. So when we talk about proof of concept, and I mean, maybe you can respond to this. When we talk about proof of concept, what value proposition do customers or companies see in you that they decide that, okay, I want to go with Amir? I'm sure there are other for startup, it's a bit of a difficult place to be in than other well-established companies. So can you walk us through the process of convincing your customers to go with your product or to go with your idea or concept before a prototype is developed?
Yeah, again, as Atif said, right, it's fundamentally important to make sure that you're solving the right problem for the customers, and you create a need in the industry. It cannot be that you bring something to the table which makes their life slightly better, right? So you have to identify the pain points, make sure that if you go to them with that solution, you're creating enough value that they would want that, right? So for that, we start reviewing our ideas very early on, whether it's customers or the potential partners like large service providers. These are the largest enterprises that you can think of that we have built relationships with over many, many years, and understand that really is a pain point, right? And then you focus on that. Then you come up with the overall blueprint that you're going to execute on. And then once you start building something, even from early days, you start doing demos to the customers and getting their constant feedback, right? And you evolve the solution over time. Whenever you put out something the first time in the hands of the customer, for sure you will get a lot more feedback. So the sooner you do it, the better off you're going to be, right? And that's why we take a very different approach where we start working with the customers from early days. And by the time we ship the product, it is something that they absolutely love and need, right? And as Atif said, you have to think outside the box. If you're doing taking a Me Too approach and solving the problem slightly better than what is available out there, it doesn't work. You have to have the vision to transform the industry. You have to have the vision to make sure that you're thinking of something which is going to create such a need in the industry that many more customers will come. Atif?
Yeah, no, I think you said it all. And secondly, as Amir also mentioned earlier, when you build a team who's going to execute on your idea, chemistry is very, very important. And when you're building a team, when you grow from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 and beyond, you're bound to make mistakes. You are bound to hire people who are not fitting into the culture that you have set up, or the environment, or they're not a good fit as far as chemistry is concerned. So so that's where you have to make sure that you act on it very quickly also. So you have to make sure that the environment, the chemistry, at least the first 3 years or so, it has to be flawless. It has to be very conducive to more like innovation and execution on time, and making sure that you're delivering more than you thought you would deliver and stuff. So it's very, very important that the first few years everything is done flawlessly. And if you have to make changes, you should make changes very, very quickly. Act on those very quickly. You should not let problems linger. The moment you let problems linger for some time, it just becomes very toxic, and the whole thing starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Atif, for that. And building good teams, quality teams, is absolutely crucial for any startup. It can define the
Right.
differentiate between success and losing on a great idea. So now switching gears a little bit towards funding, I know that many people would want to know that at what stage, when you're building up your company, at what stage do you actually start thinking about funding, raising funds? And like many entrepreneurs, you must have faced challenges. Do you remember your first pitch that you made for your first startup? How did it go? And how many times did you heard no before a yes? And also talk a little bit about how were you able to get your foot in the door with the various VCs?
Yeah. So it's, you have to do your homework. I mean, you have to work hard to get the funding, right? It's not very straightforward. Especially the first time you're trying to start something. People don't know, what your team's capabilities are, what your capabilities are. So you have to form that relationship and trust. So we were very fortunate that we had some folks who knew us, from the networking industry, who were top VCs in the Silicon Valley. So the first time I left Juniper to start one of the first things, which we had to unfortunately shut down very quickly, we were going to get the funding, within a couple of months, right? And then unfortunately, for some reason, we had to shut it down, and then we started with Tela. Even with Vipella, then we struggled for about 6 or so months, where we presented our idea to many VCs. And then after that, we came across people who really understood computer networking, right? And that person happened to be Bill Coren, who's still on our board. He was the SVP of Google Engineering. Bill is one of those guys, who has been in the industry for over 50 years, I think. And he's the guy whose team wrote if you remember, the C book that all of us read in, computer science at Bell Labs. So he's been in the industry so long and has accomplished so much and had so much knowledge of the computer networking industry, in addition to many other technology areas, that he got it. And then he invited Mike Gogan to our pitch. And, the first meeting went for about 2 hours. We went there for an hour or so with Bill. And because he got the idea, he understood what we were trying to do. He was very helpful in getting us, through that journey. And once the VCs got it, within 2 weeks, we had the funding. It was amazing. I mean, they took the whole round at Sequoia. Before that, we had to learn a lot about what to say, what not to say, the team chemistry, how you present in front of VCs. So the more you practice, the more confident you are, the more the team chemistry shows in front of these, investors, the more they trust you, and the more they trust that you are capable of execution. So even if you come up with the idea, are you going to be able to deliver on that? Are you going to be able to build a team to execute on that and make it successful? So it's all a matter of, gaining their confidence, to get there. And this time around, it only took about 2 weeks, a few weeks to get the funding. And we had the idea, we just went to 2 VCs and both of them decided to fund us. So we were very fortunate. Atif, your take on that?
Yeah, back at Viptela, I remember we went through, I think it was about 6 months, going from VC to VC and pitching and till we met Bill. Many people weren't getting it. They wouldn't understand the whole value prop of the solution. But Sequoia, they got it. In fact, I'll tell you a story. In fact, when we had a meeting set up with Bill in Menlo Park, and before the meeting, we were having lunch in Mountain View on Castro Street, and it was 4 of us sitting there. And Amir got a call while we were having lunch and the call was from Sequoia, and they said, "Oh, yeah, you were supposed to be here presenting to Sequoia." And Amir had messed up like the dates, so he thought the meeting was the following week.
Yeah.
And we were pretty upset at him that how could you forget meeting with Sequoia, because these people are very busy, and if you miss a meeting, the next meeting you get. And at that time, we weren't like very well-known entities either. But luckily, I think Bill had some time, I think it was just a few days later. We were lucky enough that we were able to get on his calendar, and then we went presented to him. He got it immediately. He's one of those guys who understands not just networking. He's a brilliant guy. So that was it. And then I think we started getting more term sheets. Also, we got like a couple of more term sheets after Sequoia.
We turned them all down. Yeah. So talk about pressure, right? Not only that we wanted to raise the money, the team was looking at me like, what is wrong with you? We've been struggling for so long, So that I still remember the day my body just drained. I was like, wow, what happened here?
I think from then,
when you're going in front of Sequoia, it's the brand name itself.
Yes.
Carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And it helps you with your success.
And we've been very fortunate, right? Bill Coren is still on our board. Mamoon Hamid is on the board, who's leading Kleiner Perkins now. Yeah. And Google Ventures also came in to invest in us. So we're very, very fortunate to have top-notch VCs in the in the world, I would say, who are backing us up. So.
And thank you. Having the right VC who understands the technology also along the way complements the process as well. They help you make the right connections. They help you get the right customers at times, and it could be a big benefit
right.
along the way.
Yeah.
Now we're going to switch gears again a little bit. Back when you were building Viptela, you described it as an infrastructure provider for the 21st century.
Right.
So this was a time when companies were just putting applications on the cloud, or they had just started realizing the benefits.
Right.
You envisioned these challenges way ahead of time, and you started working on a solution. Mm-hmm. What is your vision about Alkera, and how would you describe or define it?
Yeah, I mean, coming up with the vision is interesting and challenging. Again, as I said, you have to visualize something that is not there, right? And how is it going to change people's lives, whether it's the customers or partners. And for that, again, as I said, you have to have thorough understanding of the problems that you're trying to solve, the technology that you're trying to go after, and you have to spend a lot of time learning about it, making sure that you are identifying the right problem, and then you have to review it with the right folks, right? And also I want to make sure that we bring up one more thing, that mentors through this journey are very important, right? No matter what stage of life you're in, you always have to get guidance from other people, and sometimes they identify things that you may not be looking at, right? Because you're so deep into gaining knowledge of that particular area that you may be overlooking certain things that other people may be able to identify. So in our first company, our mentor was Amarjeet Gill, who had done many companies in the Valley, very well known entrepreneur in the Valley. He guided us a lot. And, and in this case, from the beginning, we were very fortunate that Bill and Mamoon have been there, and they've been guiding us, in the areas where we are not able to see what's, they steer us in the right direction. So yeah, I mean, Atif?
Yeah, I think one more thing I'll mention is that, all of us make a lot of mistakes, and we also made like some mistakes when we were at Viptela. So when people ask me about Alkira, like about the vision and execution and all of that stuff, I always say that, and what are going to be challenges and all those things. So I always say that we are bound to make mistakes. We will make mistakes at Alkira also. As long as we don't repeat the mistakes which we made at Viptela,
Yes, yeah.
I think we'll be fine. So you have to make sure that you learn from your mistakes,
Yeah.
and you don't repeat those mistakes again.
Always.
But you're always going to make mistakes. There's never going to be a venture that you start where you won't make mistakes. But as long as you understand very quickly that you have made a mistake, and you do something to fix it, and also like the mistakes you have made in the past, learn from those mistakes and try not to repeat those mistakes. Yeah. I think those are certain few of the very important things. And as far as the VCs are concerned, one thing they look at is idea is only one thing. Like what you go and pitch to them, that's just a part of the bigger picture. They look at like if you are able to, or if you are capable of building a team which can deliver, and which can deliver something which is meaningful out there, or which will be meaningful out there. Because when you go to VCs, mostly the first pitch, your first idea, they know it's going to evolve, it's going to change. So they don't fund you just on that idea. It's a chemistry between the founders, which is very important. Mm-hmm. If they see that you are those people who can build a team, who can deliver, a team which can execute going forward. Those are the things which they look at. So idea is like, you don't have to have the best idea or everything figured out at that time. In fact, I'll give you an example of Alkira. When we went to like I was at Cisco after the acquisition. I was supposed to be there for 3 years, but I left in 9 months because we thought about this, thought of this idea, and my point was that every idea has a shelf life. So if you don't act on it, it's not going to be valid like a year later or so. We went to Sequoia. We only wanted to go to 2 VCs this time because like what we learned from our past venture was that the more VCs you go to, if a bigger VC invests in you, then the other VCs, they start like investing in some copycatters, and then before you know that, there are tons of competing solutions which are out there. But in any case, we went there with like, maybe Amir, correct me if I'm wrong, with like 10 slides, and
It was
out
one
of 10,
main slide, and
one main slide, and out of 10, like there were like 7 slides which were like just what we thought the market was going to be.
yeah,
So they didn't invest in just in the idea. Idea was obviously like part of the equation, but it was the chemistry between me and him. It was if we were going to be able to put a team together, if we were going to be able to figure out what was required in the market, if we were going to be able to evolve the idea, and deliver. That's very important.
yeah. And one more thing is, it was so fundamentally important for them to have Atif with me, right? Because they know we bring complementary skill set to the table. So they kept asking me, "He's coming, right? He's coming, right?" So it was funny.
So I think by this time you had already developed a reputation of bringing breakthrough ideas, and also execution. And something that has stuck with me, what Atif has said, is every idea has a shelf life.
Yes.
If you don't execute it on time, somebody else will, and you probably would lose that window of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very well said, and it's a very valuable lesson for most of our audiences who are listening today. So in the past about 2 decades, our economy has gone through many tough times. There have been ups and downs, and some deeper than the other. So I wanted to ask you, was it any easier this time around when you started working on Alkera? And how is this economic downturn different than the previous one? And what impact is it having on your business? And how are you coping with it?
Yeah, so it's an important point. I mean, you have to look at the things that people are going to need and things which are suffering through this market. There are certain businesses who are flourishing, right? And fortunately, we happen to be in a business which is a need in the industry right now. And it can be delivered online. We don't have to be present at the customer sites to deliver it. You completely consume it as a service, right? So you come to our portal or our website and log in and start consuming for the first time in the history of computer networking industry, right? Something fully online, right? That hasn't happened. So we are very fortunate. The customers are still trialing it across the globe, our solution. And they will be able to deploy it soon in production environments, right? They're trialing it in production. So it's even though it's very unfortunate out there, we haven't seen much of a slowdown. The slowdown is only when people are adjusting to their new ways of dealing with work, right? So as an example, we saw a little bit of slowdown in meetings when people were adjusting to working from home. And now that things are starting to open up, in certain cases across Asia and some other places, people are starting to adjust to going back to work, right? So during that time, their lives are busy with their families and stuff like that. So that certainly impacts you by a few days or a few weeks, right? But overall, I think you need to look for businesses which are going to be immune to this type of ups and downs in the industry. So we've been very fortunate from that perspective. Atif, your take?
Yeah, so you have to adjust to these situations, accordingly to these situations. When all of this work from home started, we were also like, oh, how is it going to impact us? There was a lot of uncertainty out there. But I think not just like if you look at the whole industry, people have been able to adjust very quickly. And what we're seeing now is like, in fact, we are maybe we are producing more by just being at home and working from home than we were at when we were at work. So so we're learning a lot of new things. Now we do realize that we have figured out how we can make all this remote work type of stuff happen in a very productive way. So it's going to change our the way we work in the future. We might never go back to the way we used to work before. Um, so there are opportunities out there. When things change, you have to adapt very quickly, and you have to make sure that you evolve accordingly as the situation changes out there.
So it's a very important point because you know, we our team is a believer in having everybody at one location as a startup, because there's so much collaboration needed in the early days, right? Where you bounce ideas off of each other, you get on the whiteboard, you discuss things, you come out, you implement. You know, it's a constant, right, movement inside the company. So, and if you have remote workers, if they are 6, 12 hours ahead of you, or you know, behind in time, then you don't have that level of collaboration that you can achieve in the early days of a startup, right? So we are also learning now that remote is not that bad, right? We are getting used to it, and tools like Zoom are tremendous. You know, they've been helping us quite a bit. There are certain things that we are lacking from whiteboard capability perspective, but we are adjusting to that, and hopefully we'll have better applications which can support us, right, for a better from the remote work perspective. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amir. Thank you so much, Atif. It's been wonderful hearing from both of you. We're going to go towards our Q&As, and I would encourage all audiences to please type in your questions in the Q&A window. We have quite a few questions coming up, and some really interesting ones. There's one question: what role did sibling rivalry play, positively or negatively, in your entrepreneurial journey, other than Atif, I think, winning most of the squash matches?
Well, I mean, we don't necessarily have a rivalry, you know. In squash courts, we are tough with each other, right? Even though I know I will lose, but I still, you know, cannot accept that. So I will try my best, right? One of the things is that we played on the same team in Northern California for about 7 years. I think 6 out of 7 years, we won the Northern California League in squash. And of course,
And I didn't play that 1 year, so that's all.
Yeah, of course. But I tell you, one day he bet against me. I was playing against a kid half my age from Trinity, and we are going to the squash court, and all these guys are like, you know, you're not going to win. And I won that day. So these guys were very surprised that, you know, this guy was 26 years old. So in any case, you can see that we still have that competitive spirit between us, right? We're always very competitive. But you know, I forgot the question. What was the question? Remind me, because we started talking.
They were saying, what role did sibling rivalry play,
Rivalry,
positively or negatively, in your entrepreneurial journey?
I think, you know, if you look at Atif's personality, my personality, we're very complementary to each other, right? And in ways it has helped us. And you know, if I showed you a picture from our childhood, we're playing together, right, as little kids. And you know, you look at us, even now we hang out together. Somehow we just happen to be together all the time throughout our lives. And we live 5 minutes from each other also, right? So we bounce ideas off of each other quite a bit. Now, in some cases, you know, we can tell each other that, hey, no, that's not the right thing to do. Or, you know, normal stuff that you have amongst the siblings, right? But we've been very fortunate that our relationship has been very good, very strong. And we always listen to each other. I think the key in any relationship is listening to the other side. And listening is more important than talking, always. And then, you know, take a step back and evaluate what the other person is trying to say, and come up with an answer. And you have to be open to understand that you can be wrong also, right? You cannot be always right. So I think we listen to each other well. We try to give benefit of the doubt to the other person by staying positive, and our relationship has worked quite nicely over time.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say there has ever been a rivalry, like a sibling rivalry. You know how
Other than
siblings
squash.
are. Even squash, there wasn't much of a competition.
Competition.
No. We are very competitive. Like I know, like in Bay Area, like if you talk to our friends and stuff, like we still compete with people who are uh, half our or less than half our ages, like in push-ups and pull-ups and all that stuff. So it's all fun, and we are very competitive. But it's between me and him. It's more like we've been making each other better over time. It's a constructive, type of a rivalry where we have gotten along so well over all our lives. In fact, as he said, from ever since I can remember, I've been around him, and it's always made me a better person from the beginning. I went to the same school as him because he was in Colorado, so I went to Colorado because of him. We were roommates for a while. Also, he was doing his. He was. I was undergrad. He was doing his. He was in grad school. So even though he's 7 years older than me, we have never had like a elder brother or younger brother type of relationship. It's always been a friendly relationship. Our friends are the same. Our circle of friends is the same.
Mm-hmm.
We travel together, so that has helped us in our professional life also.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, for brothers to work together, to found a company together, it's not always easy. In our case, it's actually the opposite. It's been very easy, and the skill set is very complementary. Also, our personalities are very very complementary as well.
Yeah.
So fortunately, all of this has worked out in our case. And it's just made us better.
And it's also the belief in yourself, your abilities, right? We've never thought that we will lose in anything, right? If we tried hard enough, right? And, and even if we lost, let's say we got a bad grade in school, we would say, okay, no problem. Next semester we'll do better. So we never took it as a failure. We always took it as learn from that failure and move forward, right? Never live in the past. Always look forward to better and, stronger things. And, so from that perspective, it's been very good. It's been very good. And the whole family environment, my dad was a very hardworking person. My brothers, elder brothers, right? They're very, very disciplined in whatever they do. Our sister, she's very disciplined in what she does. So I think it runs in the family also, is that, you have to make sure that you're trying your hardest and your best to become successful in life, no matter what stage you're in. You always have to continually. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a story. I mean, some people told us when we were starting the telejourney, right, that you're too old to do a startup, and we looked at them, we said, I think that's such a, wrong comment, because you don't understand where we come from. We don't take anything easy, from that perspective, that, we still will work harder than anybody else in life. We will still, compete in squash or tennis, or as Atif was saying, that it's all a learning experience. You don't say that, at this age, I'm not going to be able to do that. So if anybody tells you that, just say, no, I mean, I have the capability and ability to do it. And always believe in yourself, not let anybody else stop you from accomplishing anything in your life. Yeah.
Thank you. And that's a good segue into our next question, because one of the questions that came in is, when you started your career as an entrepreneur a little bit late, what were the top challenges that you were facing at that time?
Yeah.
And they were asking for top 3 challenges. And how did you solve for them?
I think the biggest challenge that you run into is that you have a certain lifestyle. You have responsibilities in life. You have children. You have families to take care of, right? And you have to pay the mortgage, right? And unless you're independently wealthy, you cannot just take off and do things. So it takes a certain type of personality to take the risk, and and it's not easy, because those times sometimes can become very difficult. So when I left my job from there to, I think it was over a year, and there's no money coming in, at that time, you have to, make sure that you are still keeping your spirits high, and your family doesn't feel it, right? So it can be stressful at times, right? But you have to believe in yourself. I mean, and continue to, and ideally you want to take, uh, I guess, a step back and say, hey, I'm going to have enough money for 2 or 3 years if I'm going to embark on this journey. I'm a little different. I just like to take bigger risks, but everybody has a different personality. But I would say that to reduce stress, you should always have some savings before you get into the startup journey. Atif,
Challenges, like the lifestyle changes also. Once
yes.
you even start like a company, once you're funded, it's a very different lifestyle than a corporate lifestyle. When we were working for bigger companies, in bigger company, you have time for vacations also. You have time for a lot of other activities as well. Your life is very different. When you start a startup, um, you have to keep that in mind, that your life for the next few years is going to be very different. And
Yeah.
so that's a challenge, like balancing your work life with your family life in a startup is a big challenge. And your family has to be very supportive of your time commitment to the startup, because then it's like you're spending maybe anywhere from 14 to 18 hours a day on your on work stuff, and rest is like becomes secondary for a few years. So it does take a toll on your life, but it's manageable. It's not, and it's all again depends on your personality as well. So him and me, we have a very easygoing personality also. So we never took it like as a this is the only thing we're gonna do in our life. So we kept a good balance between the family life, between the work life, and even at work. A lot of people said that, oh, all you guys do is like play video games at work. Uh, so so there was a good balance. So it's doable.
Yeah.
Again, as he said, it all depends on your personality. A lot of people, they just take it very hard, and they age very quickly. In our case, actually, it made us younger in a way.
Yeah, but I think family support is very important, as you
Yeah, it's
said.
very important.
If you don't have the right family environment, in our case, our mother, our spouses, our kids, everybody's very accommodating. So we're very fortunate. So you have to have a well-rounded environment to flourish in these things, right? That you take on. You cannot be worried about too many things, right? Even for your employees, right? One of the things that we do is make sure that they have the right benefits. Right, we will give them the best, benefits from healthcare perspective, etc. Because we want to reduce the stress factor. There are enough stresses of running a company when it's small to get business, to close customers, to make sure the money starts flowing in. Because at the end of the day, you raise a lot of money, you deliver something, then you have to start bringing money in, right? And if you're not bringing money in, then that's another challenge, right? So there's lots of stresses, ups and downs in a startup environment. It can be a roller coaster ride, right? So you have to make sure that you eliminate as many variables as possible from people's day-to-day lives. And we try to take care of our teams to the fullest that we can, right? And we take pride in that.
So we have a lot of questions coming in. So in the interest of time, I'm going to limit ours just to 3 more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Um, there's one question that actually came from one of our charter members, Malika Junaid, and she's asking that I'm sure you must be very busy with your startup. What do you guys do when you're not working and besides squash?
Hang out with the friends like Malika Junaid and Malika and Junaid and other friends that we have in the Bay Area. We have a very good circle of friends, that we always spend a lot of time with, and there's a very good trust relationship amongst all of us. We care for each other. We enjoy together. We travel together. Our families hang out together all the time. So I think, as Atif said earlier, right, you have to find the right balance, even when you're doing the startup. I like to tell people that you always have to have activities where your mind is off of this, primary task where you have to make this company successful. So you go into the squash court for that 1 hour, you're not thinking about, your company. You are hanging out with the group of friends, and enjoying life, right? Joking with each other, or sharing ideas, or discussing topics which are of mutual interest. For that time, your mind is off of the stresses of the day-to-day work, right? And it's so fundamentally important to have a healthy balance, whether it's family or friends, or your extracurricular activities. You have to have hobbies that make you have fun, right? So we try to keep our life balanced from that perspective. So thanks, Malika, for asking the question.
There's a question about your thoughts on cloud security.
I'm sorry?
What are your thoughts on cloud security?
Cloud security. I think people are spending billions of dollars to make sure that the cloud environments are secure, and where you're building the solution, you have to make sure that the security is top in front of any decisions that you are making. So as far as we are concerned, we don't see cloud security to be any different from the requirements perspective as if you're building your internal infrastructure. As a matter of fact, you may have more resources focused on securing the clouds versus a single corporation when they build their own individual infrastructure, right? So there's a lot of money spent by the cloud providers in building their infrastructure and securing it at the same time. So I wouldn't say that security is any less than when you have a corporate network or corporate compute environment. Atif, your take?
No, I think you said it all. It's very important.
Yeah.
I think in the interest of time, we can move to the next question.
Yeah. Sure. So I think the last question I would ask is what advice you would give to young professionals or entrepreneurs, both here in the US and in Pakistan, who are either pursuing higher education or are pursuing an entrepreneurial dream, both from a technical perspective and from an entrepreneurial perspective?
So always aim high, and strive to be the best you can, and don't ever give up. Life brings its challenges, and you have to overcome those challenges to be successful. Life is not always glorious. There will be lots of ups and downs. And I remember when we were in Colorado, we went to the ATM machine and we put our credit card, the ATM card in, and there was no money coming out. And I looked at Atif like, hey, there's something wrong here, So then next day we had to go and find a job because our dad was paying for our education at that time. And we very quickly realized that we have to adapt. So life brings its ups and downs and challenges. So don't ever be bogged down by anything. You always have to continue to move forward. People who win are always positive. They never take any challenge as a negative. They learn from that and they move forward. They strive to be always better. So my advice to young people is that, find your comfort zone, find your passion, which areas you love to, that you choose, let's say a direction in your career, you should choose always something that you really enjoy and are passionate about. Don't choose something that you are forced into, right? It's very important to make sure that we are passionate about whatever we do in our lives, and find the right balance, as we said, right? Whether it's sports or family life or friends, you cannot be just single track minded and just stay focused on your career. And I think longer term, people who focus on one area, they break down, right? So you have to have the right balance in your life. Atif?
I'll keep it short. I would say don't chase money, because if you do whatever you do, if you do it really well, money comes with it. You cannot be that, oh, I'm going to do this because I'm going to make more money doing this type of work. So go do what you think you're capable of doing best, and the rest is taken care of by itself. So find your it's not just a passion, but your aptitude as well as attitude. So they both play a big role. So you have to always do something which you are good at. If you tell me and to go start singing or acting, I would be horrible at it.
We know that.
Right? So you always have to figure out what is it that you can do well, and it doesn't matter what it is. You can be doing whatever it is. If you're good at it, you'll be successful. And if you think if you want to do something, just do it. Go after it. And it's something which I would say that we have, or I have learned from my life. Again, the only thing which I would change about myself or my life is like would do like startups or these types of things earlier in life. So if you think you can do something, you're capable of doing something, just do it.
Yeah. And that's a very important point, by the way, because you have to realize that when you're doing something on your own, you're setting the direction. When you're working for other people, you're always guided in a particular direction. You have to stay within your bounds. So you cannot be as creative as, because there's so many boundaries around you, right? So when you're doing a startup, it's a clean sheet of paper. You can, be as creative as you want to be.
Thank you very much, Amir, and thank you, Atif. It's really wonderful hearing from the two of you. Some of the thoughts that I will take away with me today is follow your passion, and if you do, then you will tend to do things better if your heart is in it. Every idea has a shelf life, so execute on time and execute it well. Homework is important. Understanding your customer is important. And above all, it's never too late. Whenever you start, if you put your heart into it, you will see some good results and come along the way. With that, I would truly like to thank you for being with us today. We wish you the very best in coming months and with your recent venture, Alkera. And we'll look forward to many more successes and many more good fortunes, and we'll hopefully connect with you once you achieve the next milestones and hear more about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Farhan. It's been a pleasure, and I hope it was useful for the community. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us if there are any other questions we can answer, either through you or directly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Atif. Any last words, Atif?
Thanks for having us. Same thing. Reach out to us if there's any way we can be of any help to anyone out there. So if you have any questions, just reach out to us through open or directly or.
Thank you very much. Have an awesome day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone stay safe. Thanks.